Hey people of the VC, it's Andy Cloudy Mulder back with, I think it's another 7. I've got clouds actually, might be a few more because there's a little bit different this edition of from the inbox. I have, what do I have? So I have something sealed which I'm not going to reveal, something old, something new, some crackers, a couple of clunkers to be honest with you, and the last few are going to be some VCLT I got recently from Jim Davis, which I didn't do a video on, but more on that later. Let's jump in with the sealed item first, which I am not going to reveal. Well, I'm going to reveal to show you, but I'm not going to do a sealed to reveal. So this is the Megadeth Warheads on Foreheads box set that came out to celebrate their 35th anniversary. It's 4 180 gram LPs, 35 tracks. A few people have shown this before, so why have I kept it sealed? Well, I don't really buy compilation albums. I'm not a fan of compilation albums at all. I have a couple of 80s compilation albums because I got them particularly cheap. But this box set generally isn't cheap, but I found a great deal on a website called You Discover, a music website. They do, I don't know if they do their own pressings. No, they obviously don't necessarily do their own pressings because this is on Capitol. But they've got a shop there as well. And I had an email through, and it was during the whole Black Friday, but you know, a week or two before Black Friday, because Black Friday now lasts about a month or so it seems. They were selling this for, I think it was about £24, and on Amazon it's currently at 66, and on Discogs you're looking at from anything from 40 to 60 quid to get yourself a copy of this. So I thought I would grab it. So all in all, with postage as well, I got it for under 30 quid, which seems to be a great price. I don't think I'm going to play it. I'm more of an albums man. I like to hear a song in the context of the album it was released in. I'm also not really a flipper either, so I am undecided what I'm going to do with this. I figured if I ever need some money further down the line, I should certainly get more back than the 28 quid or whatever I paid for it, including postage. So I think I've got all the tracks on the other albums anyway, so I'm not too fussed. So this is going to be more of a slow burner, maybe an investment, shall we call it. So it's actually going to go back in the postage box it came in, but I just thought I would show you what a great deal I picked up there. So now we're going to go back to the 80s, and we're going to cover the clunkers first. The biggest clunker is A Land of the Gun by Legs Diamond. You can probably tell instantly from the album cover that it's a clunker. I mean, it looks like it was put together by as a school project. Not much design went into it. So Legs Diamond, apparently, I mean, I don't know too much about Legs Diamond. They had 3 albums at the late 70s, up to I think 1980, which they released, and then they split up after those 3. But from what I read, there was a bit of a revival, and the band decided to get back together. And I have 84's release, which was Out on Bail, which is kind of okay, but it surprised me that it was a little bit more sort of keyboardy and pop rocky than I expected them to be. And then this one it goes the full synth pop lounge music. It's horrendous. It really is bad. There's the occasional good solo in there, but the synth beat and synth keyboard sound that goes along with it is just too overpowering in my opinion. Best song on here, Rock Doctor, actually isn't too bad a song on side 2. Worst song, probably the rest of it, although My Own Game track 1, side 1, really stands out because of the saxophone on there, and you guys know how much I hate saxophone. So why did I buy it? Well, it's Music for Nations. It's MFM number 59. It's in that top 100 that I'm kind of collecting. I've slowed down a little bit this year on purchases with this because there's a few naff ones left, and I'm not going to pay top dollar for them, and there's a few really hard to find ones which I'm probably going to have to pay top dollar on, so I'm going to have to be careful as and when I pick them up. But I think once I reach that magic 100 of the first MFN, this will certainly be one of the first ones that probably goes out the door. Inner sleeve is beautifully preserved, probably because the record wasn't taken in and out much. I doubt it was particularly played a lot, and a latter 80s Swayze on the label. Okay, next up, I class this as a clunker, but it's not nearly as bad as the Next Diamond album. But that's another blind buy. It's a Grand Prix with Samurai. Now, this shouldn't have been a clunker, at least I don't think so. It's from 1983. Heavy metal is nearing its peak. It's got Robin McAuley on vocals, who obviously went on to form the Macaulay Schenker group with Michael Schenker, and I love his vocal style, so I thought, yeah, that's another plus point. The cover is metal, surely, isn't it? I mean, it kind of rivals Tokyo Blade's Night of the Blade, which didn't come out till a year after this, so this is 1983. How could I not buy this when I saw it? Sorry, it's in near mid condition, but sometimes that worries me with 80s albums. If it's in near mid condition, it probably means it's not being played much, so perhaps it's not as good as I think it might be. This was their last of their 3 albums that they did in the 80s before, as I said, Macaulay went on to partner Schenker. I believe there's another couple of members on here that went on to join Uriah Heep later on, but I don't know much about Uriah Heep, and I don't recognise the names on here. It has 1 or 2 good tracks. Shout it isn't too bad, and the other one I really can't remember. I think it might have been High Time or Never Before, but again, a little bit too keyboardy. In fact, it's very, for 1983, it sounds very 70s rock. So if you're kind of into that 70s hard rock sound, you may well actually like this one, and probably worth checking out. But for 83, it just isn't metal enough for my delicate ears. Again, perfect inner sleeve, which probably is a sign that it wasn't played much. And as I say, I got it as a blind buy, and it wasn't an online blind buy. I found it in a shop. But if I'd looked at the cover in a little bit more detail, that guy's tash screams 70s rock. So the warning signs were there. I just didn't heed them. And so this was on the Christmas label, but there's the Grand Prix. I think that's a G and a P. There's a label for you label geeks. Okay, moving on. Now this one definitely isn't a clunker. This is a new release from this year from a brilliant Spanish new wave of traditional heavy metal band called Frenzy, and this is their debut album, Blind Justice. As you can tell from the artwork, it has a very sort of graphic novel feel to it, and that reflects really every song on the album. They had an EP called Lethal Protector, which came out in 2016, and it had 4 tracks on it, and all the tracks were written about sort of superhero characters, or in fact not so much about superhero characters, but written from the perspective of those superhero characters. So it's not as cheesy as just writing songs about superheroes. It's about how they perceive their life to be, and the struggles that they have with the role that they play in obviously the comic book society. It's really well done. The lyric sheet is absolutely fantastic. It is a graphic novel. each of the speech bubbles is actually the lyrics to the song. So you've got Blind Justice there, which is Daredevil. We've got From Hell. And I don't know all of these characters, I have to say. So Killing with a Smile, that's probably my favourite track on this one. So that's the Joker. Now it gets a little bit hazier for me. Save Me, which I think is the Beast from X-Men. We Are the Future is kind of an X-Men oriented song. Anyone tell me what Velocity may be about? I think Madball is Silver Surfer. And yeah, there's Waiting on Your Call, Proud Son of Gothic City, and Annihilated by My Sound. It's brilliant. I say I one of my favourite traditional metal releases of this year. They sound musically like sort of Dokken, but also Scorpions at times as well. The vocalist has a bit of the Clouds of Minds to him. It's great chugging, guitar-driven heavy metal, killer solos, soaring vocals, beautiful. Check out the songs Killing with a Smile, as I've mentioned, and Velocity as well, and you will hear what they're all about. And it ends on an absolute banger, Shred or Die, and it does exactly what the title says. It shreds pretty much all the way through, and it's an absolutely fantastic heavy metal song. So Frenzy should be one of the bands on your list to check out from this year if you haven't. Now moving on to, oh, there we go, there's the label. Label Geeks, upside down and the right way up. Now moving on to, yeah, I mentioned that I had some VCLT from Jim Davis. So why am I not doing a VCLT video? Well, at the time when Jim and I exchanged a few emails, and he offered me a couple of records, which I was happy to take off his hands. But at the time when he sent it out, he said that he don't make a video on this. It's fine, you know, just enjoy the records. And but then when I'd received them and opened it and thanked him for sending them on, he said, you know, if you want to make a video, it's fine. So I said I would have a listen to them first and then put them into a like an in the inbox, from the inbox style video. So rather than just me showing albums saying great, thanks, I can obviously give you my opinion on them, and they are all great, I have to say. So there was two I knew about, and one that he threw in as an extra, which took me completely by surprise. If there had been an opening video, man, my eyes would have popped out. But first up, this was the first one that we discussed. Jim had previously sent me the debut album from Methodist Church, and he asked me if I'd be interested in classic live. Of course I would be. Who wouldn't be? There were only 300 copies of this pressed, I believe. Now, whereas I said earlier I don't like compilation albums, the opposite could be said of live albums. I absolutely love live albums. It's a double album, gatefold, quite a sort of minimal package, if I'm honest. So there's no inserts, no particular credits or lyrics or anything, which is fine. It's to say it's a double album, but if you can see from that, it's only there are 9 live tracks and 3 each on side A, B, C, and there's a couple of studio versions. We've got Fake Healer and Badlands studio versions on side D. That is my only criticism of this record. I say I love live albums. I would love all 4 sides to have been full of live tracks. The live tracks that are on there, brilliant. It's all my kind of era Metal Church. In fact, it's got some from Hanging in the Balance, which is an album I've not heard yet. I mean, that's got to be due for a vinyl release. Looking up, I don't think it's. I think there's a South Korean version. Whether that's official or not, I don't know. But it must be crying out for a vinyl reissue. So there's Beyond the Black from the debut album, Watch the Children Play and Start the Fire from the Dark, Badlands from Blessing in Disguise, and Date with Poverty, In the Morning, In Mourning, sorry, and The Human Factor from The Human Factor, the fourth album, and then 2 from Hanging in the Balance, which I'd never heard before. So that's Gods of a Second Chance and No Friends of Mine, and I really like the song, so I've got to probably look to grab a copy on CD of that album. As I say, only 300 press, so absolutely delighted that Jim found one and decided to pass one on to me, so thank you very much for that, sir. As I say, quite minimal packaging. It was both records in the same static, heavy, shiny inner sleeves that really set your heart pounding as you're trying to pull the record out, but they're stuck in there with the static. So they have been replaced, and the custom labels as well. Actually, I was going to mention the cover. I don't really know what is going on with that cover. That is a bit grim. I don't know. Yeah, no idea. But still, I'm not going to complain too much about the packaging for an album that someone has so kindly sent across the Atlantic Ocean for me. Now, this next one is pretty cool as well. Now, I actually already had a copy of this album, so I did kind of say to Jim, if you want to pass it on to somebody else, that's fine, but I would absolutely snap your hand off if you want to send it to me, because it is not only is it a copy of Rock Until You Drop, it is a signed copy by all 3, John Gallagher, Mark Gallagher, and Wacko Rob Hunter there. Now, I had read sometime years ago, when I actually picked up my copy that I have, I'd read that there was a bunch of these that were signed. I can't remember if they were signed before the worldwide distribution, or whether they just happened to be in America and they had a bunch and they signed them and it was distributed that way. But I can't find that article again, so I may have just imagined it. I don't know. So if anyone knows the story about how many of these were signed and distributed, please let me know in the comments before. It's a classic album. I mean, not a clunker on here. It's Raven. It's raw. It's heavy. It's on the classic yellow neat thumbs up label. Was it neat 1001 of this album? It comes with a few of the merchandise in it. It's not 100% complete, but that's okay. So I've got a complete version as well that doesn't have the signatures on. So between the two of them, I'm doing pretty well. These actually came as a sort of an A4 sheet. It's quite fragile because they had perforated edges between them, but it was kind of set up like this. So we've got a fan club and a backstage pass, and then this was, I think, on this side, and it's a t-shirt offer, and the missing piece is actually like a I guess there's A5 maybe, a promo photo, and also there was a poster with it. So I reckon the original owner of this one, being a big fan of Raven, has taken out the poster and the picture and stuck it up on his wall. I certainly would have done that back in the 80s. I wouldn't do it now, but the lyric sheet again is there, and it's in superb condition. In fact, the record itself is in amazing condition. It might even be better than the copy I have already. So as I say, I could potentially Frankenstein them together, but I probably won't. I'm going to keep hold of them because I'm a kleptomaniac like that. But as I say, the chance of owning a signed Angel Witch debut album, I wasn't going to turn that down. So again, Jim, it's come to a home where it's going to be well loved, and thank you again so much for sending that one. Now, the last one that made my eyes kind of pop out, because I wasn't expecting this one at all, and when I mentioned that to him, he just kind of said, well, he does have the odd surprise up his sleeve as well. That is a original 2008 pressing of Death Angel's Killing Season. Now, this I think has been repressed this year, so getting a copy on vinyl isn't as hard as it used to be, but from what I can gather, this is particularly rare, and Oh my good God, God, it's a fantastic Death Angel album. I think Death Angel are one of those 80s thrash bands that have just got better and better. I loved Ultraviolence, Frolic and Act 3. They're good, but they didn't kind of... to me, it was kind of more experimental, I guess. Maybe it was just because it was so different from what others were doing. I do like them, though, but most of what I've heard that Death Angel have done this century is fantastic. And I've not heard the new album from this year either. I mean, I've bought quite a few, not as many as some, but I've bought quite a few new albums this year, but there are a ton I haven't had the chance to get, or the money to get, or the time to listen to. It's just been an incredibly rich year for music to come out. So to get this, as for Jim to find it first, to be honest with you, and then for him to just gift it on as VCLT, it's just such a fantastic gesture, and one I very, very much appreciate. Highlights for me, side A and side B are to me the best of the two records here, but it's all good. Sonic Beatdown, Carnival Justice, Soulless, top 3 songs easily for me on here. It came in the shrink. It wasn't sealed, but it came in the shrink, and it still had the hype sticker on it. And as you see there, it was pressed on, and still is pressed on, clear vinyl. And if I had to choose a least favourite colour vinyl, it would be clear. I don't know what it is about it, but I would prefer to have a solid colour. But having said that, I'm very delighted to have it, as I said. I thought it was scratched when we first played it. Side A, literally straight away, the needle was jumping all over the place, and it sounded terrible. Held it up to the light, and there are no marks, no scratches, no imperfections, nothing. It looks absolutely perfect. I had a problem with one or two other records in the past that skipped, and then when I'd upgraded to this Autophon 2M Red, they played perfectly. So I thought I would kind of do the reverse, stick in my old stylus, and it played through without a problem. So I don't know if it's a problem with the pressing, or maybe the grooves aren't deep. You know, I'm not technical into how these things are really done, but when I put this needle back in again, it was jumping and skipping. It sounded horrendous, but I adjusted the weight of the tone arm. So on this model of stylus, the tracking weight should be 1.8 grams. I nearly doubled that, and it played fine. So obviously, just the needle needs to have a little bit more weight in those grooves. I just have to make sure that I adjust it back before I play anything else, so as not to wear it out, I guess. But killer VCLT from Jim. But he wasn't finished there. He also sent me a couple of cassettes. I did my Iron Maiden debut album collection fairly recently, and I did mention that I used to have a copy of the cassette. I probably still have it somewhere, but I have no idea where it is. I've moved so many times, it's probably in a box in the loft somewhere. And he found a US copy. Now, it's not an original one. He was keen to point that out, but that didn't bother me at all. It's just great to have a cassette copy, and it's the only copy out of the probably 5 or 6 different versions that I have that has Sanctuary on it. So obviously Sanctuary wasn't on the original UK version. I love that song, but to me it has no place on this album, and it sounds really, really weird to me having that stuck in there. But it's in pretty good shape. The yeah, it's clear cassette. I think it's an 80s reissue for sure, but delighted to have that. And he also sent me this as well, which is the Live After Death. Now this is a single tape. Now, considering Live After Death is 104 minutes or so long, I mean, that is a lot for a tape. I remember using C90s a lot. That's a big old tape. So this one has actually, and I'm not surprised that it's in places, it's a little warped. The sound is a little distorted, I think, and I'm presuming that's as a result of there being just so much tape on here. There are other versions of this that are double cassettes, and I'm probably going to need to find one of those now, because it looks like I'm now building a collection of low art deaths as well. It is a sickness. Right, that's your lot. Thank you for watching. I have a ton of videos that I'm kind of hoping to do in December, but I'm struggling to find the time at the moment, so if I do, you may see a flurry of videos coming up, so I hope you get time to watch those. If not, never mind, they'll still be there. I'm not deleting anything. Thank you for watching. Comment below, and see you next time.